just throw this mic on and then I'll be away. So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to Nick and Chris for organising this event. It's great to have so many people here, and hopefully you'll enjoy what I'm going to share. So this is what I'll be talking about today. Data appropriation through organisation infiltration using enhanced integration and a bit of truth manipulation. In the industry we call it physical red teaming and realistic attack scenarios. And what that is dressing up and breaking in and then hacking everything. So we're a technical consultancy, but today I'll be talking about kind of the non-technical side of how we get that initial foothold on corporations' networks, and less so much about what we do when we're actually on the network and doing the kind of standard red team pen test stuff. So we're a boutique consultancy based in Bristol, and we deliver penetration testing, check testing into government, technical research in cybersecurity, and kind of any kind of wonderful and wacky investigations into security on various different platforms. This is Tom and Ben. They're two of our technical pen testers with backgrounds in security consultancy and computing. This is them with massive smiles on their face because we'd been out at sea for 10 days hacking an automated vessel for the Royal Navy, and it was quite an experience. So we kind of do this weird boutique stuff where we can, just to keep ourselves entertained and make sure that platforms are secure around the UK. So this is me. I'm Technical Director at Modux. I started out as a programmer, writing PHP back when that was cool. And one of our clients was hacked in my first job, and so I was really interested, started looking at the logs that we were delivering ourselves through emails, and it was an SQL injection attack that no one else in the company could work out what had happened. I was just so engrossed in it, I was just absolutely wrapped up. So after that incident, I moved into security and realized that I'd always been a hacker, because it's in here, isn't it? This pass here is photoshopped. You may have noticed that this pass is photoshopped as well. It's a pretty shoddy job, but this one was photoshopped and that was a shoddy job, and same with this one and this one. And it's all right if you're not a pro at Photoshop, because you can still use crappy passes to get into buildings to help you get onto the computer network to start hacking. This pass actually wasn't made using Photoshop. I did tell a bit of a lie. It was made using the kiosk in the reception at the client. So when you go in, because technology is going to speed everything up, of course, you can go in, put in your name, put in the name of the person you're visiting, and it'll take a photo using the camera at the top and print you a pass, so you can start drifting around. You know, and you obviously look there, I've blurred out the logo of the client, but it'll put the logo on. So instantly that gives you a bit of credibility. So with this kiosk, when it said we're ready to take a photo, obviously it's got my face on the screen, so I hold up my phone with a picture of Super Mario, and it just takes the pass photo and prints it out, and you're ready to go about your business. Then what you do once you've got that pass is you show it to the security guard on the reception. He opens the swing gate and you go into the meeting area to meet whoever's hosting you. This pass, we did actually get caught outside the CEO's office. We thought it was a breakout area with a couch and the rest of it, but actually it was the waiting area for the CEO's office, and his secretary had actually spotted us, called security because we had antennas sticking out of our bags doing a wireless assessment. He comes over, grabs the pass, and he says, "Oh, it's fine. Oh, you're working with us, no problem," despite there being a picture of Super Mario. So it's like really the bar for getting into buildings and kind of enjoying yourself while you're there is fairly low. But of course, if you don't know about computers, you're not going to get up to much while you're there. So what is red teaming? For those of you that don't know, does anyone know what red teaming is in the building? Anyone's heard of it? A few people. Oh, brilliant. So red teaming is where we will perform a security assessment against an organization, but it's kind of carte blanche, no rules. So you'll often have penetration tests that are scoped to different platforms, but no one's really looking at the whole organization saying, okay, let's perform a realistic attack against the organization across physical, across websites, network infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, and let's hack the organization in a realistic way to try and perform fraud actions or get data out of the organization and try and attack it in a realistic way as criminals or nation states would. The reason we do red teaming, feel free to walk past, I don't mind, guys. So the reason we perform red teaming is so that we can get this realistic assessment of the organization at that point in time, and we can chain vulnerabilities as well. So whereas you'll have a pen test on a certain platform and people will say, well, you couldn't get into the building or you didn't have credentials to get onto the application in the first place, we get to chain everything together and say, well, actually, because you haven't patched this or because you haven't fixed this software bug, we were able to go without any knowledge and get domain admin on the organization or get full access to the VPC and the Amazon console, and we were able to tear everything apart in the organization because you haven't gone through and done these small configurations to harden your environment. We focus on the gaps as well during a red team. So whereas an organization will have ISO 27001 and they'll have all these kind of policies in place, it really helps us throw those out the window and say, well, we don't care about your policies, we're just going straight for the gaps. You can be happy about those policies and you're all clapping and patting each other on the back, but we're going to focus on the gaps. And anything that isn't a gap or isn't a security bug that can get us into the organization, we just completely throw it away. So we're focusing on really high level, high risks. So we're not interested in cross-site scripting. We're not interested in your TLS not being up to scratch, you know, TLS version 1.1. We don't care during a red team because it's not going to get us into that first server and it's not going to help us escalate privileges. So things that we are focused on is remote code execution in web applications. We're focused on poor password policy across the domain. And on the physical side, we're focused on can we clone the passes, can we drift around. We're focused on the high risks as well. So we're not interested in can we get SQL injection on an application and then we dump the database and it was just a database full of postcodes. We don't care about that. So we'll throw that kind of stuff away and we're only going after the real stuff that criminals would go after. It's also sample based, so we're not testing that every door has got RFID on it and we're not testing that every server's patched. We're just literally going after those high risk assets and going, yeah, we do care about that. We're not going to give you a full report that says, you know, 20,000 servers are patched up to date. We're just going to give you a report that says we got in through this server and this is what we did. So it's a real exercise to prove what is possible. And it helps us identify weak corporate structure as well. So you'll have subsidiaries that have been bought out, you'll have people that aren't really pulling their weight, and actually this exercise really helps us identify, yeah, find this guy in Romania is reporting that he's been patching his servers, but we flew there and, well, we can see he's not. So the initial foothold onto the network, of course, during any red team, we want to hack all of your servers and get access to all the user accounts that we can. But in order to do that, we need a first step up onto your network. So we can do that by going in through the Wi-Fi. So can we crack wireless keys? Can we get access through guest wireless networks? We can send phishing emails in with attachments that hopefully maybe someone will run. So maybe it's a Word macro or it's an exe file that if we can get someone to run that, maybe it'll get us control of that first computer. Or maybe we can send someone to an Office 365 authentication page, which is actually fake, and get them to enter their domain credentials in there. We can go in through buildings. We can go remote from the internet, so looking for insecure applications that are running on your network. And we can go through industry-specific infrastructure, such as 4G base stations and bank ATMs, or even shop kiosks. So we will pick out stuff that your organization is using, and we'll go after that stuff because often it's running legacy stuff. So it's not uncommon, for example, for an ATM to be still running embedded Windows or Windows XP. And it's not uncommon for base stations to be running wildly weird, unpatched versions of Unix. So we're always looking for that initial foothold into your infrastructure. Then from there, we can start doing the standard pen testing across the network. Problems with Wi-Fi during any kind of security assessment or even a red team is that it can be secured. So if you're using WPA Enterprise with certificates, we can just have a conversation about that and understand actually, well, that Wi-Fi is going to be really, really difficult to break into. And if you're not using that, then we can break into it. So if you're using WPA with a single shared key, there's a chance that that network is not as secure as it can be. So we don't really need to focus on that during a red team. And if the wireless is secure, then we're not going to get in. If it's not, then we can get in. But as far as demonstrating how safe your boundary is, we can do that with a conversation. Phishing is awesome, and phishing will get us into an organization. It just takes time. So for us, usually a phishing exercise is around 2 weeks, and that's including reconnaissance through to someone finally executing a payload. On our most recent phishing exercise, it was a fairly small organization of 150 people. So it was a French hedge fund, and we had 2 people open the final payload that actually executed, that got us a shell. On the initial fingerprinting emails that we sent in, we had about 80% of people opening that email, which then told us what they're using and which browser, what time of day, the region that they were working, because people were flying all around Africa and the rest of it. So we can build a picture through phishing and we can get in, but it's going to take us about 2 weeks, whereas maybe through the building stuff we can get in on the first day. The problems with phishing is we don't know the execution policy on the computer, so the computer of the end users may be hardened to disallow macros being run, maybe even Office documents are scanned by AV before they're even put on the end user's computer. So there's a lot of unknowns for us to get that first shell on the first computer from where we would then start assessing the network. And like I said, it's time consuming. For us, the quickest ways into organizations are going in through the front door, because we'll probably get in on the first day, through web applications. Need more beer, sorry, one sec. So through web applications, for our clients, it's not uncommon for them to be running some legacy installation that some guy in marketing span up in 2005. And even as far as custom code, we will get in through custom code that the developers will never think that anyone would ever find. It's kind of a specialism of ours, is hacking web applications and getting shells. I think in 2016 there's one bank, and I think as a team we got 8 shells on servers for this bank, but that's across different platforms, so we are still getting shells through web apps. And as I said, industry-specific technology. We've hacked successfully organizations through each of these 3. We did get shells on a 4G company through a handset, and from there we were able to compromise the whole company. But today I'll be talking about physical security because it's a lot of fun, and like I said, we can get in on day 1. So we're looking to go in through any building that we can. We did actually get into one organization through a presence that they had in a shopping center. So they had a small booth that was reselling one of their products, and through this booth that was not even a full shop, they had a VPN connection in, and they were running Citrix. So whilst one of us distracted this representative that was reselling a product, the other one was able to get a command shell through Citrix, and we were able to dial back to our C2 server through a third party that maybe it was in scope, but how can you secure against that? You don't have any control over what people are doing in a shopping mall when they just want to resell your product. And it does present a significant risk. We've gone in through branches and shops as well. I've been sat in a shop before that had a sales kiosk, and for 2 hours just on my laptop trying to get a shell on this kiosk. And every time someone in the shop came over, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine. And that was in Czech Republic, so there's a nice little language barrier thing where they just thought I was some weirdo that just couldn't make up his mind. And I'd alt-tab quickly to their website, and I've got all sales deals and stuff on the internet. And then they'd come over and go, are you sure you're all right? I was like, yeah, I just want to get the best price possible. And then they'd go away, and I'm like, just trying to modify this JavaScript. Because I've found a breakout in their kiosk, which was running Internet Explorer, IE7, and I was just running my server, and I just kept refreshing my server, and they did actually have AV on the kiosk, to be fair, so I was just modifying this JavaScript over 2 hours and finally got a shell and went to a cafe, and, well, we did pop it all open. But so again, like physical security, it doesn't even need to be your head office. It can be any presence that you have. We're going to be going after it. And it's not to prove that we can get in the building or we can get into the back office stock room. It's to get us onto the network so that then we can start doing technical stuff that's really going to highlight problems. Data centers actually are on there, but that's damn hard nowadays. So the data centers that our clients have even have iris scanners, and it can take ages to get into a data center, even if you're legitimately supposed to be there. So we have done it, but it's always proves to be a bit of a hassle. So the steps of actually getting into a building, remote recon. So you want to know what the building's like, who's going to be there, what times is the building open. Onsite recon, so we're going to be walking around trying to get an idea of how people use the building, what kind of people are wearing, what kind of clothes people are wearing. Then we're going to get in, then we're going to compromise your network, and we're going to try and get some data out while we're there. So for us, when we're choosing a target of how we get into a building, we've got a few criteria. So we obviously want to be able to get in. So any kind of secure site or a site that's advertised as secure, we're just not even going to bother looking at that, unless it's quite obvious that there's some kind of vulnerability there. So developing countries are really good targets for us because they do have a lack of resource. So we're in large organizations where they have subsidiaries or they have operating companies that are in other countries that may be a bit poorer. They're not going to have the same money to spend on security that Western countries are going to be spending. Also, the culture in a lot of countries can be more relaxed. So if you're walking around, and as long as you're friendly, that can go a long way. So just go in, shake someone's hand, ask about what football games are on and the rest of it, or even personal questions, and you can make a lot of friends really easily in countries outside of Europe. Advanced countries, weirdly, you can use different techniques to get into buildings. So people are quite arrogant, so they think that they know best, they think they know about security, and when you've got a head office in the UK telling a German company that they don't know how to do security, they tend to beg that is kind of, they know what's going on, right? So they understand security because they're German or they're Dutch, and they're as intelligent as we are, and they're still in the EU, and they know how to do things properly. So they have that arrogance, and especially if they have to report back, they'll do things properly, but actually we can use that arrogance against them because they will be dropping the ball and they won't know how to identify which balls they're dropping. So culture, again, they're not going to ask you when you do have a pass or you don't have a pass. They're going to be really, really polite. So I like to walk around like this just to get the point across that I'm supposed to be in the building. This does actually work in some of our clients. If you're wearing like 3 or 4, you're not going to look out of place, especially if you've got a football one. Definitely you're supposed to be in there. Subsidiaries and acquisitions, again, they're awesome because companies exist for productivity and for making money. So when a company gets acquired, the first thing they want to do is plug them in to the network, plug them into the same email system, but they're not going to buy everyone new laptops, so they're going to start migrating things a bit slowly. So they'll do the big things first. They'll get everyone using the same online systems, they'll get everyone using the same domain, but actually they're not double checking the endpoints, the network in the building, the laptops that people are using. Those are the last things that move over. So we can really leverage that and target subsidiaries, and this every time proves like the quickest way into an organization is go straight after a subsidiary, because even if their network or their domain is still on legacy, there'll be one link, there'll be one server, there'll be a VPN connection, there will always be something that can get you across. Another thing is it's not weird in a subsidiary to walk around and be from head office, or to be from the new company that has acquired them. So you can walk around with a corporate lanyard and you'll look out of place because no one's wearing that lanyard. But if that's from the parent company, no one knows what that lanyard's supposed to look like anyway. So you can kind of step up and say, actually, well, we're from head office, we're here to do an audit, just double check, and you can get straight in as well. I mean, yeah. So Google Earth is great. I'm sure everyone uses this maybe before they go to a meeting or before they go to somewhere new. This is from a famous landmark in London. I didn't think it was fair that I put up a video of a client's building. So just to give you a demo, I do actually do this, and my guys, we do use this technique to really understand the building before we go there. And you might say, well, you can just go there. Yeah, sure, but it helps you become really familiar with the place before you actually turn up, so that you've removed any kind of unknown as much as you can, and you're familiar, and you can just settle in and go, well, I know there's a coffee shop round the corner, I know that there's a bench there, and you can kind of just exist in the space in the same way that the employees do. Does anyone recognize this landmark? The V&A, yeah. I said it's not a client, it's not, but I did get in. So this was out of hours, and I did want to go to the V&A to see an exhibition. But I'd presumed, just because it's London, it'd be open a bit later, and I turned up at 6 as they were closing the doors. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go around the corner. So tailgated a guy past the security desk, and the cleaners, they just had headphones in and a beanie hat, and I wear a cap if the weather's bad, so literally did the same, headphones and a cap, and just like walked in behind somebody and got into the V&A. I'm pretty sure it's not illegal, there's loopholes and stuff, but I've got into a few landmarks for free at least as well. London Eye, sneak in behind a family, and oh mum, wait up. So it can be done, but I get to do it for work as well. Another really useful source of information other than Google Maps is the planning office. So all blueprints for buildings have to be uploaded. Even if a company really wants to keep something private, they have to put in planning permission. So you can find out back entrances, fire exits, and you can really work out the layout of a building before you're in there, which can really help a lot, because if you tailgate someone in, or you manage to get in through a fire exit, the last thing you want is to not know whether to turn left or right and someone see that indecision in you, because they will, and then you'll look out of place. So you want to know, okay, well, once I'm in there, I'm going to walk and I'm going to go and sit at the first breakout area. And even as far as tables and chairs, people will put that on planning applications. And the reason for that is not because it's necessary, it's that the architects really want to push every application through, so they'll go above and beyond, and they'll put all sorts of stuff on there. So even as far here, we can see the brands that we're going to populate the stores in the shopping centre. So this is actually from a real job. We got access to one of our clients through their presence in the shopping centre. But this was invaluable. We knew exactly which doors would go where once we were in the shopping centre, and we knew where we shouldn't go. We knew if we were going to burst through a door, we'd just be in a staff changing room, and that'd be embarrassing. I say that, actually, one of our guys did go into, I think it was from, our client wasn't McDonald's, but he went into the changing room for McDonald's, which was this one, and he went in, and there was a girl using a laptop with a cable which was poking out of the wall, and any cable we're interested in. So Danny went in and said, what's that cable for? Thinking maybe there's a chance it'd plug into our client's network. And she just got, and we dress like this, so we're not really dressed like we're working in a McDonald's store. And she got really nervous and unplugged it and said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to plug into that. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, can I plug into it? And Danny plugged in, but yeah, it didn't go where we wanted to go, unfortunately. How did we get in this one? Yeah, it was through an Ethernet cable, just out of the back of one of the tills. And again, it got us on the corporate network for this organization. So you've got a till in a shopping centre where security checks are way lower, and again, because of lack of network segregation and lack of VLANing, and because of this productivity that everyone's pushing, again, you can literally go into a shopping mall and plug in and you're away, and you're not just going to be getting till receipts, you're going to be getting onto the corporate network. And of course then you could put an implant or a Raspberry Pi or whatever you wanted that could just sit there and go unnoticed for a long time. Security cameras are also required to be reported if they're higher than 2.5 meters. And again, you think, well, this is getting a bit James Bond, whatever, but actually people do follow us when we're on site, and they will follow us if we're doing anything weird, because they're not seeing any weird behavior, and so security guards really will jump on anything they can get. Could I get an update on time, because I'm not paying attention whatsoever? 7:30. Okay, cool. How long does that leave me?
about 0 for the present. No.
Okay, I'll overrun.
Up until 7:45.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. Yeah. Right, so architects and interior designers are brilliant at giving away information. So this building here, the client, you couldn't find anything on it, but the architects that did the interior design had their photos all over the website of this meeting room, and we did get into this meeting room, but we'd thought that we needed to get into this room as a connection into another building, but at least we knew that we were expecting to see receptionists that were going to ask us why we were there, right? So we knew from this photo, and sure enough, when we got on site, there was a receptionist and a security guard that wanted to know who we were, and we were already prepared for what we were going to be doing. So, yeah, there's another angle there. Another great source is social media. So from social media, there are a few famous landmarks and famous buildings that corporate companies will have offices in. So we can just use that to get an idea of what people are going to be wearing. Especially newer companies, startups, and cooler tech companies. Some people will wear smart casual, others will be t-shirts, so it's really important to know what you need to be wearing before you turn up on site. This is Dimitri and Ben, two of our guys, when we're hacking 4G. So again, classic high-vis, you've all heard about it. The best combination is definitely high-vis with a suit underneath, because then you're the guy's boss if he's wearing high-vis, and if he's wearing a suit, you know more than him because you're wearing high-vis and you're there to fix the plumbing or whatever. There's nothing worse, actually, than wearing a suit in a company that's all t-shirts. And one of our clients, everyone's wearing a suit except for this one country, and we didn't know that, and we turn up and we're like, yeah, let's come back tomorrow because you're going to stand out. So on-site prep. This is pretty much the toolkit. So we've got a printer for printing badges in a cafe. We've got a couple of bits for hacking wireless. We've got a something that we use to bypass network authentication, and we've got a prox mark in the envelope there, which is what we use to bump into people and clone passes. First things that you've got to do is take your time. So you get on site and you just relax. You're not getting in day one. We do every time get in day one, but it's important to just chill out and just kick back and just absorb the atmosphere and try and understand what's going on. We take photos of passes, walk around, take a photo, try and understand what passes and lanyards people have. Different staff will have different lanyards. This guy's called Dean. He was head of security at the building we were trying to get into, and he was out definitely looking for us. So I had to snap a photo of him because I just thought it was so ironic. He was definitely looking for these hackers coming into the building. I was stood next to him, and he just didn't know what a hacker looked like. This is Alex. So I asked Alex on his first day to send me a photo that I could put on a pass, and he sent me that one. Cheers. So went through and made Alex a fresh pass. And all this is done in a cafe. It's really, really cobbled together, but it's just that little indicator that security guards get trained to look out for. They're looking for the lanyard color, and they're looking for the company logo and the same format. And this was recreated from the pass format, and it's just super rough, but it's just all they're looking for is that quick visual cue that you're supposed to be there. So sometimes we can't get in just by slipping through and kind of tailgating or cloning passes. So this is Lucy. Hi, is that Lucy?
Hi, yeah.
Hi, I'm just with Luke up in the office, and what's that? Yeah, Luke. One sec. Yeah, I'm just with Luke up in the office, and he's saying the printer.
Hello, customer service.
Can you give him? Hi, is that Lucy? Behind the desk.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, I'm just with Luke up in the office, and what's that? Yeah, Luke. One sec. Yeah, I'm just with Luke up in the office, and he's saying there's an IT guy that needs to come and look at the printer. Can you give him access to behind the desk and give him whatever? And then there's Danny behind reception.
Yeah, sure, that's no problem.
Okay,
this one was proving a bit difficult.
In
it was
maybe
like they had secure
5
barriers
minutes, I
and
guess.
there wasn't a way
So
in.
if you just point
again,
him to
those
the
reception
printer
computers are on the same corporate network. So do we really need to get into the company, into the office?
Okay, cool.
Or can we just
Thanks
say we're there to fix the printer, unplug the printer, plug it straight into your network adapter, and you're away? And when we did that job, the guy that we reported to really wanted to know Lucy's name, and I didn't give it away. I've given it away here, so there you go. But he was really interested in who it was that we spoke to, who let us in behind reception. But that's not the problem, right? It's an organizational problem. It's not a 21-year-old girl's fault when she's up against professionals. So what we have to do is we have to secure things with technology instead of relying on people to do the company's work for them. Sometimes these locks, really easy way to get in these locks, you guys will see them everywhere. Just put a bit of tension on the turn, and whichever button is the hardest to press, that's the one you're going to press first. And then the next one, whichever one's the hardest, and there's a definite difference in the tolerance, and keep working through as it gets harder, and yeah, 4 or 5 digits later, it'll just open. So there's a little tip for you. This is the classic credit card shim that you see in movies. It does work. This is a car park in Munich, in the basement of our client. And because it's Germany, they're not allowed to film like all locations all the time unless you're actually in the office where you would have signed something. So if you can get into a public location on private land, maybe there's no CCTV, so you can just do whatever you want. So we were just drifting around and in the basement after that, and the shim works. Give it a go. You'll destroy the card. That was my hotel card, so I did have to go and get a new one when I went back to the hotel. So once we're in, we're doing all the classic stuff, blah, blah, blah. Techies will enjoy this one. So we got into a stock room and got the MAC address off this Mac. And because it's harder to authenticate Macs to Microsoft domain systems, often network engineers will just whitelist whoever's got a Mac. So sometimes it's literally just the CEO, just because he thinks Macs are cool. And everyone else has got to authenticate with domain credentials onto the wireless. Took the MAC address from this box that we found in the basement and clone it to my laptop, and straight away you're on the network without the needs for any credentials. And this actually happened, and it was actually this box. Like, this is the stuff that no one's going to think twice about a piece of trash in a basement, but like, really, you have to. And again, that can be fixed with a technological solution, like secure your wireless properly. So we spend a lot of time in basements, but we want to be in the nice areas with everyone else, where we can just get a cup of tea and relax once we're in, because this is Danny's heart rate monitor after we were being tailed by security, and we weren't running, and some other stuff had happened as well. The client had sent us an email that whilst we were hiding from the security guard, saying that our contract had expired, could we renew it? And so at that point we weren't even technically working for anyone, and we couldn't get caught. And I'd forgotten to print out the letters that we keep in our pocket. I'd forgotten my passport. So at that point the conversation with security was going to be really interesting. Once we're in, it's difficult to bypass any kind of Ethernet control like NAC. It can be done, but again, it's time consuming. And drifting into the wrong area, like I said earlier, where we were outside the CEO's office. But the biggest problem is food. So you'll find yourself in an area or a meeting room, and you've secured yourself network access, but you can't leave the area because you're going to have to tailgate someone again, or you're going to have to tell another lie. So if you do get into this line of work, just keep a good amount of food in your bag. Getting around Ethernet security, often we can do that by unplugging a printer. So what we did here, first we plugged into the USB port on the printer, printed out an out of service sign for the printer, unplugged the printer, and then we were just on, and we're just happily just on the network, and people were coming up. And on that day, actually, in that room, someone was asking me to help them print, and I didn't know how far to go with it. So whilst Danny was having a good time with his laptop, I'm getting distracted trying to help this girl print on another printer. I'm really out of my depth at that point. We can put a little implant in as well to bypass the authentication and to help proxy that through. We've previously used teleconferencing, so again, it's on the network, unplug it, no one's going to notice if it's down, unplug it, plug it into your laptop. You'll be in a subnet that's probably somehow restricted, but you're going to get somewhere. You can book out meeting rooms as well, and no one's going to come and disturb you. If you can find a meeting room that's booked out all week, book it out and just sit in there and have a good time for a week. No one's going to say anything. Europe being how it is, even if the meeting room's booked, they'll look through the frosted bit and go, oh, there's someone in there, and they won't do anything about it. So yeah, you got to enjoy yourself, definitely. Once we're in, we can clone cards, we can steal passes, because what we're trying to do is maintain persistence to that building all week. This is a video of me in reception. This was 10 p.m. We'd stayed till everyone had left so that we could ransack the building. And we are ransacking the building. We're going around the building and we're taking every hard drive out of every desktop, because no one's encrypting desktops. So take the hard drive out, plug it, dump the hashes, dump whatever files, dump whatever session cookies are in the browser, and then put it back together, go to the next computer. And we'll do that maybe 20 computers, and we're going to get something from at least one of them. What I didn't realize here is the security guard was outside the window smoking, just watching me drift around like this. I didn't get any passes, but you can find them in other areas as well. So here it's pretty small, but this girl had left her pass in the food top-up kiosk in the office. So again, straight away we've got an ID that I can just walk around with, and when you see this stuff, you're like, that is insane. But people are going to make these mistakes. So whose responsibility is it? Is it the people or is it the company at that point? So once we're in, we're going to do classic technical hacking and pen testing. We're going to get access to as many servers as we can. We're going to dump your databases. You're going to have an application on the internal network that's not secure. And we're going to be able to demonstrate an end-to-end path of how we hack your organization and how we take all the data out of that. And we're going to prove further persistence. So when we do hack servers, we're going to stay there and we're going to make sure that we've got access to the domain later on when we're back in the office. So we want to get in and we want to get out. And so that's me and Danny in an office that we shouldn't be in, but we did get in and we had a good time. So for us as technology people, what can we do? So you do hear often people say it's a people problem. They say security is a people problem. We need to train up our staff on how to spot phishing emails, and we need to train our staff on stopping people tailgating into buildings. We're never going to stop that stuff. And a phishing email is designed to look like it's supposed to be in your inbox. And I'm designed so I'm supposed to be in your office. I've got 2 eyes. I can dress like your employees. I'm always going to be in your office. I could be a cleaner. I could be a contractor. There's always a way to get into an office that you're not supposed to be in. So we have to fix this with technology solutions. We have to make our networks secure. We have to make the servers on those networks secure. And we have to use technology to solve all of these problems. We can restrict access to networks through authentication and NAC. We can encrypt desktops. And we can secure internal intranet systems and stop putting the onus on end users and employees that are trying to do their job and trying to be productive and say, hey, everyone in the company has to be a cybersecurity expert. That's not what we need. We need people that understand technology to step up and implement decent solutions so that people can be insecure, they can open phishing emails, they can let people drift through the office, and when those people do that, they can't then just plug in and get a shell and compromise the network. And that's it. Any questions?
Will you be sticking around?
I'll be sticking around. Sorry I overran there.
We'll do questions with Sash when we're over pizza. We're going to crack on. So we're going to take a few minutes just to switch over the laptops, do charge your glasses, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks.